Darin Henley here, CBMZ. Welcome back to CBMZ. I tell you, we've made our way to Shelby, North Carolina to the Don Gibson Theater, folks. And if you've never been here, you need to check it out. You can find them on Facebook, you know, that social media thing. It's easy to do now. Just search for the Don Gibson Theater, take you to the website and all that. Artists such as Travis Tritt here, Bo Bryce here, Gene Watson here, tons of folks. And with me, we have Stan Lowery of the Don Gibson Theater and Ron Ownbey from Elite Artist Network and gtownsound. How are you guys doing?
Good.
It's good to see you, Stan.
Good to see you.
Mr. Ownbey, good to see you. How did you get a Mr.? I don't know. It must be the...
I don't know. Age.
Age, you think?
White hair.
White hair. I was going to say that, but I didn't, so there you go. No, I'm here to talk to these folks about the Doo-Wop RnB review that's coming up on March 15th. 2014, and what a show it's going to be. Just check out this lineup, folks. We've got Eddie Floyd, Maurice Williams, we've got Ken Knox, former member of the Chairmen of the Board, you know, doing his thing now, Ken Knox and Company. Incredible there. Also on the show, James Bates with the original Spontanes and Image are all on the show. What a show that is. It's going to be a great time, folks. Doo-Wop RnB, and I know we're going to talk to Ron about this a little later on. It's sort of an R&B revival somewhat coming up. And I want to start with you first, Stan, because we're at the Don Gibson Theater. Now, it's a legend in itself, Don Gibson and all of that. You know, Old Lonesome Me, Don Gibson had done in 1958 was his original tune. But, you know, until I really started researching this for the interview, I didn't realize that Don Gibson had written Sweet Dreams, Patsy Cline, I Can't Stop Loving You, Ray Charles. I tell you, tell me a little bit about the theater and how it all come to be here.
Well, we started opened in 2009, November of 2009, and it's a brainchild of a group of citizens got together in 2006 actually, and wanted to do something for the town and wanted to do something to energize the economy. And so they come up with a couple ideas, one being the Don Gibson Theater as a concert venue. And we opened in late 2009, right after the economy crash of 2008, of course. And but we've been going strong ever since, and been having some really cool artists, and can't wait till the R&B
Well,
review.
I'm going to tell you, it's an incredible place just to walk in here and the feel of the place, because it is an old theater, movie theater type style thing, and you guys have added on, and I'm looking at a sign over here, folks. They've got tons of stuff. This is why you need to go to the website. I was telling you some of the artists that have been here, but like Jason Petty's coming, and the Cleaverleys. Who all else is here that I guess I would ask that is probably the big, I know you told us earlier off air that we were talking about David Allen Coe has been
David
here.
Allen Coe, Vince Gill's been here. You mentioned Travis Tritt earlier. We've had John Ford Coley has been here. We've had John Oates of Hall & Oates.
And all this is in Shelby.
All of this is right here in Shelby.
See, there you go. I'm telling you, these gems, and something else I want to bring up a little later on is the North Carolina Music Hall of Fame. I told you, all these, I call them lost gems in a way, because people would need to search out the stuff that you find in North Carolina of music especially that came from our state. It's incredible. Ron, talking to you a little bit, what's coming here, this R&B revival that you have called it in the Doo-Wop RnB review that's here, Maurice Williams making up that doo-wop thing, and Eddie Floyd and all that kind of stuff, and Ken Knox with the beach music world and what they've created.
Right.
A little bit, the thing that's going to happen with all this and these artists is there's a band that backs these artists up called gtownsound.
That's right.
And how does that work? When you've told me about it, I think of the Funk Brothers somewhat of backing up Motown artists.
It is. We have an incredible group of musicians. We have one gentleman who is our group leader, our head musician and band leader, John Alexander. You know, you got a guy there with masters in music and jazz from University of Miami that can write just incredible arrangements and understands and has a real heart for R&B music. You have in the horn section Tyrone Jefferson, originally the band leader for the James Brown Orchestra. By the way, a plug for the movie. The James Brown story will be coming out August of this year, and there'll probably be a character in there that playing his part. Just a group of original and so much like, in a way, the Funk Brothers, because the majority of these guys are professional musicians. They're jazz musicians.
Right.
That is a level of artistry in music that is sort of up there toward the top. it has its roots in, jazz certainly has its roots in that R&B, all that originally coming from the African American church back years ago. So you've got this incredible band, and instead of having to tear down and set up a group and tear down and set up a group, it goes back to that old R&B format that Motown did back years ago when they would have their cavalcade of stars and all the things that they did, all that stuff. And so you just have, you know, a great group come on and the band plays behind. You know, Eddie Floyd comes on, knock on wood, he's doing all his hits. And then you got Maurice coming on, he's doing all his hits. You've got all these people just back to back to back to back. Short break, Ken's group comes on. And the nice thing that they do here, and I give Stan a lot of credit for this, most of these places, the musicians, you know, people come and they're not given an opportunity to really interact with these people. Right. We're going to have it set up with Stan's suggestion that he does here, that the people that come to this event will be able to meet and greet these musicians after, talk, if they
and all that. They've got
autographs, anything they want, everything right here. And just, I'm going to say this, I've been to a lot of places. This is one of the finest places
it's beautiful
I've ever been.
First time I've walked in, and you've been here before to see it. Man,
it's absolutely gorgeous.
Incredible. Well, tell me this a little bit, because folks, coming up in the interview, we're going to take a short pause, and Ken Knox, from the former chairman of the board there, and Ken Knox, he's going to be joining us too to tell us a little bit about what's going on with him and him being on the show here and what he thinks about this whole R&B revival kind of thing. But the Elite Artist Network, I know you have created that, and the Elite Artist Network, from what I can understand, is going to put together shows for folks and take it around the country somewhat. So
we are around the immediate area first, but we've been contacted places like Knoxville, Tennessee, and others that are now contacting us in reference to a showcase that we did recently, and people really are excited about this. There's something about that old, authentic R&B sound, and let me say again, everything that people hear in our shows, live music. They ain't no Memorex.
It's all real.
There are a lot of groups out there now, and a lot of their stuff is really coming through sound systems, and there's less and less real quote-unquote live music. This is the authentic live R&B sound that people heard at its inception, and we're very excited to bring it to the public.
Well, I can't wait for that. As a matter of fact, I'm emceeing some of that show, folks. I got to throw that in there. Can I give
my
little plug there? No, and Stan, I tell you, the way you tied Don Gibson in the theater and all this, and really until I started researching and knowing what Don Gibson had written, the way to bring R&B and country together, here you go, it was the Ray Charles song.
Absolutely.
But
and I'll tell you a little thing about that song. You said it was the B-side of "Oh Lonesome Me."
Right.
Well, another little tidbit is that he wrote those two songs in one day.
Oh, wow.
In the same afternoon.
That's amazing.
And took them to the record company, and they liked "Oh Lonesome Me" a little better than "I Can't Stop Loving You." But "Oh Lonesome Me" stands on its own.
It does, yes.
Kentucky Headhunters #1 hit.
Wow.
And, you know, there's been tons of things going on with "Oh Lonesome Me," as well as "I Can't Stop Loving You."
Incredible. It goes back to that music thing. It's just music in general. And, you know, the music that we're talking about, too, I think, and Ron, you said something about music then, we'll say, versus now. This was music when, and I interviewed Duke with the Four Tops here a while back, where the Four Tops over at Ovens Auditorium in Charlotte, North Carolina. And Duke said, I was saying something in an interview, and he said it was back when music was music, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right.
And it all.
And it's kind of roots music. You know, you're talking about Don Gibson's.
It was the creation.
Yeah, Don Gibson's music was roots music from that community.
Incredible.
And R&B is roots music from its community. And they come together. And of course, Ray Charles was probably the guy that really brought them both together.
If you watch the movie, the Ray Charles movie, it talks about all that.
Yeah.
Well, let's take that short pause, and coming up, we're going to bring back Ken Knox, and I'm going to have Ron here with Ken, and how all that came about, how you guys got together, and how Ken actually saw your inception, somewhat, of everything this is turning into for the Elite Artist Network and the Rhythm and Blues Revival. Stan, thank you so much. Don Gibson Theater. It's just from the logo, and folks, I don't know if you can see it on camera, is the Don Gibson thing. So it's just an incredible time. We're going to show you some footage from around the theater as we talk through the interview as well, so stay tuned for that. Ron, stick around.
I'll do it.
We're going to bring Ken in. Folks, we're going to take a short pause. We'll be right back. Saturday, March 15th, the Don Gibson Theater, Shelby, North Carolina, 8:00 p.m. It's the Doo-Wop Rhythm and Blues Review with the gtownsound Band, featuring Eddie Floyd,
Onward, baby.
Maurice Williams,
Just a little bit lost.
former Chairman of the Board member Ken Knox with KCO. Also appearing, James Bates from the original Spontanes,
Put your red dress on.
and Image.
All the time I wanna take your place, the backstage.
Tickets are available at dongibsontheater.com or call 704-487-8114. 704-487-8114. It's the Doo-Wop Rhythm and Blues Review, the Don Gibson Theater, Shelby, North Carolina, Saturday, March 15th. Back with you at the Don Gibson Theater, CBMZ, and back with us is Ron Ownbey, back with us, and also Ken Knox, former Chairman of the Board, man, the man who was there, the man who, when they say, Ken, blow your horn, you got it going on. Ken Knox and Company now, folks, and I tell you, you got a lot to talk about. There's a lot going on with you right now. The new song's out, I'm Ready, Willing, and Able, and on the radio show with Anita and I, it is on our top of the chart, man, like in our top 5. It just started last week. But not only that, it made it into the BBC South in Southampton over in the UK, man. What's the secret to this?
Listen, the secret is the fans. Start off with fans are a part of this, and the other secret is being able to create music. And I was fortunate enough to learn that craft by sitting next to General.
That's General.
I represent General.
Yeah.
I'll take that.
Well, you know, I got to ask you a question real fast before you go up. That was part of what I wanted to say. Is over the years I noticed you came out with You first.
Yes.
You know, and you, when that came out, it was really a smash because right out of the gate, because everybody's going, wow, this is Ken Knox, and this was your first time of writing a song, produced the song, man. You put it out. And you brought General into this because I know you guys were together so long. You're in the studio all the time producing stuff. Studio East over in Charlotte's where you guys were always at this time. How much of that do you think really it rubbed off in a big way, evidently, for your first time out of the gate with you, and what's happened now?
I'm just saying, I feel very fortunate that being with General and Danny for 38 years or more,
Yes.
you know, we were like family. And when you live with someone for a long time, you sort of mimic each other.
It rubs off.
It rubs off. And basically, I was very fortunate and lucky to be able to come out of the box with that song, You.
Incredible.
First song ever written in my life, because we didn't have, General's our principal songwriter. And there was no need to write anything, but him and I produced our albums and records, and so I was a part of that, you know.
Well, you know, every time that I was fortunate enough to be over at Studio East when you guys were recording, sometimes I'd be invited over to see what you guys were doing. You're both right there all the time with Mark Stallings over there.
Mark Stallings a big part.
You're right there with it the whole time.
We used to call Mark Stallings the fourth chairman because in the studio you had Mark, myself, and General. And so, I mean, and what we did, how I came to be now as Ken Knox and Company, is the fact that we took the name Chairman of the Board, we put it on the shelf, put it on the mantle in General's honor.
Right.
And that was the birth of myself.
KCO, Ken Knox and Company, is keeping the legacy alive.
That's right.
Of the whole thing. You went on with that. I got more with Ken. Man, I can sit here and talk to you all day because you got tons. There's just so much going on right there. But you get involved with Ron Ownbey.
Right.
And which is a great thing because you saw, I guess, one of the first shows when I've talked to you guys that was actually put on, sold out event, and it was all going on, and you were telling Ron how you loved it. Ron, how did that come about, the Ken meeting, and you were there? I know, what happened there?
We were playing one of our own events, and we invited Vince from Belmont. We play at the Belmont
They're a live
outdoor live at 5 thing, and it's just great.
Friday Night Live, I believe they call theirs.
Love it. And Vince came to one of our events in Gastonia, and he brought this young man right here. And you know, I was just so tickled to see him out in the audience. And I'm going to just stop here because, you know, what I say is going to be about what I say about the group. Tell me what you said after you saw that show.
I was very impressed because I had never been, well, it's been a while. It reminds me when I was coming up and I used to sit at the Fox Theater watching Detroit, watching the Motown Review, and I got this feeling that came over me. And the night I saw Ron and the whole gang there, I was just standing in amazement because I hadn't had that feeling in a long time.
That was that revival.
It was.
It was.
That's what it was. And
it's a spiritual thing.
Very spiritual. Very amazed. And the next year, Ron called me and he asked me to be a part of the show. Well, actually, Ken Knox Company.
Right.
And man, it was just.
Who was on that show that night? I know, was Image on that show that night?
Image was on that show. James Bates happened to be on that show.
He's on this show as well.
He is on this show as well. And this, again, this fabulous group of musicians.
And well, you know, I got to throw something in because I was at the, it was a showcase you guys did in Studio East again over in Charlotte. And I saw Image. And you know, and I've talked to Anita was there with the radio show, her and her husband, and after the show, people were going, and she was going, wow, that Image group was fantastic.
Right.
And she said, you know, they do some cover stuff, but it's the stuff you don't hear bands doing, like the OJs, Backstabbers, and the Manhattans. And what it's
stylistics.
Like, the style, it's incredible to be there though, because you feel like it was just a wow moment. I will say that. And then James Bates, what he brings to the table, being with the Spontanes, is a great thing.
It is. And the beauty of this thing is that, you know, you talked about Ken's music earlier. The thing I love about Ken's music now, Ken is writing this himself. There was a time when he stood in a place beside General, and that was fine. But Ken has had the opportunity, this amazing opportunity, to step up and be in the full spotlight on his own. His songwriting, I'm a songwriter, so I can speak from this. His songwriting is coming from his heart.
Right.
And it really comes across in his music. His two new tunes, You and the other tune that you, Ready, Willing, Able, are excellent songs, and they're contemporary,
yes,
but yet they keep that sound that you guys were famous for at the same time. So I'm really excited about that.
It's the legacy of it. It's building. It's growing.
And speaking of Image, Image will be coming out with their tune, their original tune. Hopefully, be able to perform that here.
This is inside information.
Perform that here at the Don Gibson Theater, and gtownsound will be coming out with their second original tune. Do you remember? Follow up on it's just Rhythm and Blues.
Rhythm and Blues. Actually, we need to bring that up because that was the first James Bates with gtownsound.
That's correct.
At that time, who did that song? Well, guys, it's been an incredible time to sit here. To Stan Lowery with us earlier, and Ron, I tell you, the concept's incredible. I can't wait to see it grow. And Ken, well, before you say your last thing here, there's a story, and I've told you this story because it's funny because General told me this, and I always translate it to you because it's the same thing that happened with him is with you through him now. And the story was, General said this was up in the Detroit days, Holland Dozier and Holland. And I can't remember the producer's name, but he told me the story. He said, you know, I asked this producer to teach me how to do this. And the producer said, I won't teach you, but you can watch me.
Right.
And that's what General did. And it reminds me of you hearing that story now because it's exactly the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, again, I have to give the credit to General. And see, one of the last things he told me was, Ken, I want you to continue our legacy. And that's what I intend to do. That's what I'm doing. And I have to give a shout out to my band.
Right,
yes,
for sure, the executives.
To the guys who are still behind me. There's Thomas Hunter, there's Jerry Washington, there's Brandon Stevenson, there's Jerry Midas Harding, and there's Jerome Joseph. Those guys stood behind me and said, Ken, we're behind you 100%.
Cool deal. Well, I tell you, Ken, it's an incredible thing. They're a band, incredible band themselves. I mean, you know, you had Greg Perry come in with Edna Wright a few years ago and all that, and Greg come in there, I'll never forget that. And he was like putting them on the money, man. He was making it right. Well, guys, I tell you, thank you again so much.
I gotta say,
go ahead. What you got, Ken?
I'm very excited to be here at the Don Gibson Theater.
It's a beautiful place.
Because
it really is.
Those songs, I Can't Stop Loving You, that was my father's favorite song, sung by Ray Charles. Now I know that Don Gibson had written it. And another song that Any Day Now.
And right, you were talking about that Ronnie Millsap had done that, and you informed me that somebody else I didn't know had done the song as well.
Chuck Jackson.
I tell you, it's incredible talent. And the one thing that we're trying to go here, but it's just too much information. Y'all got to come back. We're going to do this again, I tell you. Is that one thing you and Don Gibson have in common is you're both in the North Carolina Music Hall of Fame. Together, y'all in that same Hall of Fame. Yes. Yes. Are we done?
I'm excited.
You're excited.
Well, listen, we're excited to be just March 15th, Don Gibson Theater.
Right here. Eddie Floyd, Maurice Williams, Ken Knox and Company. You got me all confused now. Image, the Spontanes, the gtownsound band. It's all going to be right here, folks. Make sure you check out more CBMZ. Links to all of this are on cbmzonline.com. You can go there to get to all these artists that we talked about, find out more about Ken, what's going on there, gtownsound, elite artist. It's just all happening. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
We'll see you down the road.